Good morning, students. I hope you all are doing well, and I hope you are enjoying the subject. So yes, Vishal, good morning. Abhisha, Nagarthana, good morning. Divya, Rohan, yes, I'll unmute you. Yes, good morning. Mohammed Parvez, Sunil, Gurmeet, yes, very good morning to all. So, Rohan, I've unmuted you. Yes, Mausam Beda, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rohan. Tell me,
Sir, I have some doubt.
please.
Sir, I wanted to understand the difference between the financial lease and operating lease and where the lease rental in both the cases are charged, whether under office administration, factory manufacturing, or selling and distribution.
Okay. So firstly, let us understand the difference between the leases because it has impact on accounting, it has impact on income tax, it has impact on GST, and it also has impact on costing. See, this is what is now required when you are studying at the CA level, especially at the inter and the final level. Try to understand the transaction, like how you gave example of lease, two types of leases. So this is a transaction, and then try to collate, try to apply the logics, the concepts of every subject to understand how that transaction would fit in that subject. So as I said, you have to understand how we'll do accounting of these leases. In taxation, you'll understand in income tax under which head it should go, under GST, how it will be taxed, and so on. Now, coming to your question, firstly, what is the difference between operating lease and finance lease? So basically, lease in very simple, bare language means taking something on rent, especially some asset, which may be an immobile property like a shop or a factory or a land, or it may be like a movable property, like in this particular case, machineries or huge vehicles or cranes or any type of equipment. So generally very costlier things which are assets are taken on lease. Now lease can be of two types. When you say operating lease, it purely means taking it on rent. What you are paying as lease rental is actually like a rent for anything which you take on hire or rent. That is what is operating lease. Finance lease is like taking that particular thing on loan. So where I buy something and let us say I want to purchase it, make it my asset, but I do not have the money, so I'll go to bank, I'll take a loan. Now instead of doing this, because many times getting loan from bank is having a separate challenge, plus it not reflect well in my balance sheet. So instead of doing that, I go to a person who is an investor. I will say, see, this machinery I need. This is imported from Germany. The cost in Indian rupees may come to around 20 crores. I want you to finance me. Now, what will happen in this particular case? When the lease is a finance lease, the person buys the asset. This particular person who is my financer will buy the machinery and give it to me on lease. But the lease terms are so designed that at the end of the lease period, I will become the owner of the lease. And most important, whatever lease rental I'm paying, again, it is called as lease rental only, but it is like a bank's loan installment. So, how you pay loan installment for banks, here, whatever lease rental you are paying is made up of two portions. One, the principal portion, which represents the cost of that asset, and the additional is the interest portion. Now, once you have understood this difference, answering your question, where will this lease rent reflect in costing? Firstly, in the first case, which is operating lease, the entire lease rent is your cost because the entire lease rent is a rent, it is an expense. In the second case, when it is a finance lease, the portion pertaining to the principal component is not your expense, rather it is something that is part of your capital asset cost. So that will not become part of cost per se. Yes, for that asset, since you are capitalizing that asset because you are treating it as your own asset, you will claim depreciation. So that is a different part. So in case of finance lease, the entire lease rental is not your cost, only the interest component is cost. And since now you are considering the asset as your own asset, whatever is the depreciation that you will be claiming. Now, answering your question particularly where it will appear in cost sheet, whether in any type of direct cost, or whether in case of overheads. So generally, I repeat the word generally, all expenses relating to assets or facilities are indirect because they are not identifiable with one particular production. They are used for multiple productions, multiple products, multiple batches. So they generally are overheads. Then coming to the next point, which overheads, that depends upon the nature of asset. Like this machinery, which example I'm giving, since it is going to be used for a production, it will go to factory overheads. If I buy or take something on lease, like a office space on lease, the lease renter which I'm paying will go to administration overheads. If I take some transport vehicle on lease, which will be used for delivery of my finished goods to my warehouses, to my customers, then that lease rental will go to my selling and distribution overheads. So I hope, Beta, your question is answered, and I'm happy with the level of questions that you'll ask. The only request is that now also try to collate other subjects concepts with this, so that your concept is multifunctional, your understanding is multidimensional, and that is what is the need of the hour in today's professional world. So now you should also seek to understand the accounting, income tax, and GST effect of this lease rental as well. Fine, students? Chalo. Anybody else has any questions?
Sir, in the module under office and administration overhead, it is written lease rental in case of operating lease, and then in the bracket it is written in case of financial lease, lease rental excluding finance cost.
That's what I'm saying. So lease rental excluding the finance cost, because in case of lease rental, entire amount is not your expense. As I said, some portion is also dealing with the cost of the asset.
Finance
Right?
cost means the interest, na?
No, beta. See, finance cost, yes, you can say finance cost is the interest. Understand one thing. Now, when it comes to interest, whether interest will be passed part of cost or not. So here there are two concepts in case of costing. If the interest is for running the business, like your finance, which is required as a working capital finance, that interest is included. But where the interest is for some long-term asset, like taking some asset on lease, or bank loan or debenture loan interest, which is for long-term assets, it is called as a finance cost, similar to dividends. Like dividend is also finance cost. The only difference is it is paid to owners, and interest is a finance cost which is paid to loaners. That is from the one whom you have taken loan. But both are for financing your assets or financing your long-term requirements. So those things are never part of cost. So you are
Sir,
correct.
you said that in finance lease, the interest will form part of the cost, isn't it?
That depends upon, beta, that depends upon what is the lease for. As I said just now, if it is for your working expense related some type of expenditure, or that particular asset is something for working expense, it will be forming part of cost. Otherwise, it is considered as a finance cost, as I equated. See, when you want to start a business, you require funds. You raise either from the shareholders, which is your share capital on which you pay dividends, or you take it in the form of very long-term loans by raising debentures or raising long-term finances for which you have to pay interest. If that is the case, it becomes a finance cost. It is not part of cost. But other than that, for your short-term requirements, like annual requirements or 2-3 years requirement, if you are taking something loan or any finance, then that cost is considered as part of cost sheet. So here, if it is for a very long-term asset, then that particular thing will not be considered as part of cost because it becomes a finance cost. Is this clear,
Okay,
Beta?
sir.
So the specific answer depends upon what exactly is the nature of that item which you have taken on finance, right?
Yes, sir. Sir, in the term rates and taxes, what does the word rate implies?
Okay. See, when we talk about rates and taxes, this is continuing right from standard 11 when you started understanding trading P&L. In that, in P&L, the common items that you always get is rent, rates, taxes. Correct? This is the terminology that is normally used. Understand one thing. Rates, these terms are used whenever it is a tax. I'll use the word tax, but it is a tax relating to some property, like um, when you have this immobile property like some office space or even your residence, every year the local government charges you gharpatti, which is also called as municipal tax. Similarly, if you have bare piece of land where there is no construction, a different type of tax is levied on that. So all these taxes, which are generally linked with your properties, they are many times called as rates. So rates and taxes, you will find that they normally come together. They always use the word rates and taxes. Why? Because both are in the nature of taxes. However, rates term generally is used whenever it is a tax relating to some property. So there, instead of using the word tax, they many times use the word rates. And that is why you have this term rent, rates, and taxes, because that deals with properties. Correct?
Yes, sir. Sir,
So
charging and absorption are same, na?
yeah, charging, absorption, recovery. These three terms mean the same. I'll explain what it means. See, I'm incurring some cost on running my business. Now, since I'm a businessman, my purpose is to earn profit out of my business. How will I get profit? I will get profit when I get back. I'm now using a parallel word for all these three terms. I'm using the word get back. I get back this expense plus I get back something extra. So, take an example. Annually, I spend 100 crores for my business, for running my business, which includes all my regular annual cost plus some portion of depreciation and all for recovery of assets related costs. Now, for running my business, if I'm incurring 100 crores and as a businessman, I want to earn profit. When I will get profit, when I'm able to recover, when I'm able to get back something more than 100. So, what I will do, how will I get back something? I will get back something from my output. So, whatever I'm producing, selling, or if I'm into profession, whatever services I'm giving, I am having only this one medium of getting back my money. This getting back will be recovery. What is recovery? I want to recover this 100 rupees cost, 100 crores rupees cost, plus I want extra 10, 20, 30, 40%, whatever is possible in my business. This recovery, how it will happen when I'm selling my goods, when I'm providing my services to you, I will fix my price in such a fashion that I'm able to recover, I'm able to get back this 100 and whatever extra I'm able to get back, that will be my profit. Now, understand this word. I'm trying to get back this 100 from you all. Let us say you all are all the customers of my business who are buying my goods or who are taking my services. Now, how will I be able to get back this money? Now, the parallel word for get back is the recovery. How I will be able to recover this 100 rupees from you when I first charge this 100 to you? How do I charge, or what do I mean by charge? When you come to me, ki, sir, I want your advice for my particular business. So I'll say, okay, my consultancy fees are rupees 20,000 for this work. You will say, okay, sir, I'm ready to pay 20,000. So when I'm charging you 20,000, when you pay this 20,000 to me, in this 20,000, some portion of that 100 crores is included, plus some portion of my profit is included. So this is how, when I charge you 20,000, when I tell you that, oh, your fees for your particular case or work is 20,000, and when you pay this 20,000 to me, I'm getting back some portion of that cost. In the same fashion, when I take this fees from each one of you all for whatever output I'm giving, which may be goods or services, what I'm doing is I'm recovering some portion of that 100 crores from everyone throughout the year. By recovering small portion, I'll recover entire 100 crores. How I'm recovering? By first charging. Charging means telling you, ki, okay, boss, you have to pay me this much. So I charge, I allocate some part of my total cost to your work, to whatever services I'm giving to you. So that is what is the meaning of costing. In costing, I have to allocate some part of my cost to your output, whatever I'm giving to you. It may be goods or service. So what we do in costing is some part of my cost I charge to every product, every output, every service that I provide. And once I charge, it becomes a price. When I inform you this price and you pay me this price, I recover. So these are the parallel words: charging, absorption, recovery. Yes, I'm waiting for further doubts. No further questions, students? Students, no further questions? Okay. So then let me start our deliberation. Okay. So let us first revise what we have studied. So we are in a very important topic of costing. Important because the most difficult aspect or the most challenging aspect of costing is charging the overheads. Why it is difficult? Because when we talk about any direct cost, be it direct material, direct labor, since they are easily identifiable with your product, to charge that cost to your product is easy. Charging means now we just discussed out of my total cost, I have to put some amount for this product. I have to allocate some amount to this product. That is what I mean by charge. And why do I charge? Why do I find out the price? So that when I sell it to you, I can recover that amount from you. So in that fashion, I'm recovering, I'm getting back some portion of my cost. This entire thing is costing. Now, in this, charging direct cost is easy because you can see, I'm now using the word see, how much material is gone into this, how much labor hours is gone into this. So once you can see, you can easily charge because it is easy to calculate. If you can see that, okay, 2 kgs of material have gone into this, you can easily charge the material cost of 2 kgs to this product. If you can see, if you can record that 5 hours of labor is required, then you can easily charge 5 hours of labor cost to this. So this is how you do costing in case of any goods or service. So finding out this direct cost is always convenient. If not easy, it is convenient because you can see, you can measure. However, when it comes to overheads, if you remember, we had this detailed discussion. When you come to overheads, what is missing in overheads is this. This is what you can easily count or calculate in case of direct cost. That is the base. Like for material, it is the material quantity, kgs, liters, etc. For labor, it is the labor hours. For direct expense, it is the units of product. These things you can easily measure, calculate. Hence, you can easily charge them because you have to simply multiply it by the charging price. Charging price is a mathematical calculation done by our mother formula that we have been discussing. What is challenging is not finding out this charging rate because that is a mathematical formula which you can always do conveniently. The challenge is identifying how much you are using for the product so that I can use that as my base. So once I'm able to measure how much I'm using for a particular product, that becomes my base of charging that expense to my product. Understand this. So base, as the English word means, base is some basis. Base and basis are different grammatical variations of the same thing. So we normally say, I want some basis to charge. On what basis I will charge? So that basis for material is identifiable. It is the quantity of material. Labor also it is identifiable. But that base is missing for overheads. So if you remember in the last lecture I explained, so what overheads does not have its own base. In fact, that is why these expenses are the overheads because you cannot identify, you cannot see, you cannot link. So what you do is you use one of these bases only as the base for charging overheads, or either taking their base, or you can directly take the cost itself. So whatever is the material cost, you take this as the base. Whatever is the labor cost, you take this as the base. Or here, like in case when you want to charge some overheads like administration overheads, you can take the factory cost as the base. So either you can take one of the quantities of material labor as the base, or you can take the cost of material labor or any cost as the base for charging the overheads, because overheads does not have its own base. Now, how do we do this? That whole process is what we study in this overheads chapter. So as we discussed, in the previous lecture, in order to charge overheads, you find out the charging rate. This you require charging price for everything, which is calculated by the mother formula. We discussed this for material, we discussed this for direct wages. Now, for overheads, the charging rate is now called as overhead charging rate, overhead recovery rate, overhead absorption rate. These are parallel words. Common terminology uses overhead recovery rate, ORR. Now, how do you find out this charging rate? It is done by the mother formula, which is in numerator, you have total cost minus scrap value of normal loss. There is no normal loss having scrap value in case of overhead, so that is removed. And in denominator, you take the base minus the normal loss units of that base. That is the general mother formula for all costs. The same mother formula is used in overheads. Now, for using this mother formula, we need two things. In numerator, we need the overheads amount. In denominator, we need the base. As I just explained, this base is what you assume by your past experience. You, by your professional judgment, decide what base you will take, because there is no base of the overheads itself. So you decide and you take your base as per your judgment and understanding. What base we are taking, that we study in each of the overheads as we proceed. So the practical part which we are starting today will be what? You need the numerator, which is overhead expense. You need the denominator, which is the base. So how you start doing this? You prepare your overheads register, which is one of the subsidiary books in cost accounting. And this overheads register is very simple. You identify all the expenses which are not direct. So you take all the overhead expenses which you get from your trading P&L account. Now, since we are doing this at the start of the year first, so all these expenses are taken from the budgets where you have budgeted these expenses. You get the budgeted amount from your budgets. Now you make 3 columns: production, administration, selling, and you divide the overheads in these 3 columns depending upon that which expense is for which category. There may be a possibility certain expense may be only for production, so it is put in production overheads column only. Certain expenses may be for all 3, it is put in all 3. Then, once you have divided all the expenses here, you will get the total overheads for each category: total production, total administration, total selling. This is the starting point of calculating overhead charging rate. So, overhead charging rate is calculated by the mother formula. What is the mother formula? In numerator, you want the overheads. In denominator, you want the base. So numerator, we have calculated using the budgeted expense and dividing it in the 3 categories. Like as we were discussing at the start, if the expense relates to my production or factory, I put it in production overheads. If the expense is relating to running the business, managing the business, I put it in administration overheads. And if the expense is for promoting my business, selling my goods, delivering my goods, I put it in selling and distribution overheads. Now, the charging rate which I'm calculating for overheads is either called as overhead recovery rate, overhead charging rate, overhead absorption rate, because these 3 are parallel words. You can use any one of them. Most commonly used for overheads is overhead recovery rate. So short form is ORR. How this is calculated? From budgets, what I explained above, you find out the numerator. Denominator, you have to assume. Now, this assumption depends on your professional judgment, experience, that what is a suitable base. And that base, you select and you use it as a denominator to divide it so that you get the charging rate. Then we started discussing what would be the appropriate base for each type of overheads. So from here, we have got the overhead expense amount. Now we'll use this amount one by one. So I first start with administration overheads, which I have calculated here. So this administration overheads recovery rate I'm calculating. In the numerator, I have taken the estimated overheads, which I got from the above overheads register prepared using budgets. In the denominator, what is the base? As I said, it is dependent on judgment. It is dependent on your understanding. So generally accepted bases are for administration overheads. If you want physical base, that is, you want something in quantity, you can take the production units. Again, it would be estimated because we are doing it at the budget stage. If you want some cost, then you can take the factory cost. Now, since both are cost, numerator is also cost, denominator is also cost, we have to express it as a percentage. So we multiply this by 100. So you will get your overhead recovery rate something in a percentage. So you will say that my overhead recovery rate or charging rate for administration overheads is 12.5% of factory cost, considering the values which I have assumed in the last lecture to explain this. If I'm taking quantity as the base, so if I've taken production units as the base, so my overhead charging or recovery rate is coming to rupees 25 per unit of output. Now, once I've calculated this at the start of the year, see exactly right now in the month of March, all companies are doing this. All different business entities who are or who have to do costing are doing this right now, because now this is the best time when they can estimate their next year's figures, all figures, production, how much they will do, how many labor hours will be required, how many machine hours will be required. So these are the physical quantities that they budget, plus they budget all the financial figures like the sales values, the material costs, labor costs, everything. All these budgets are being prepared right now. And on the basis of these budgets, they are preparing or finding out the respective charging rates. So for administration, the basis to be used or recommended are these two. Similarly, for selling and distribution overheads, the recommended bases are, if you want physical base, you can take sale units as the base. If you want value, you can take sales value. Now see, it is not that these are the only two options. You can use multiple options, but these two are the most recommended ones. Correct? So this is how you will find out the overhead recovery or charging rate for administration and selling. Now, when it comes to production overheads, the formula is same. Numerator is cost, denominator is base. However, there are two approaches. The first approach is called as a single or blanket rate approach. The second rate is called as a departmental rate approach. Single or blanket rate means what? For entire production overheads, you find out a single rate, like how you did for administration and selling. For entire administration and selling, we had only one rate. Right now, for administration and selling, this is the approach that you should calculate one rate. However, for production, they are suggesting that you can calculate a single rate. Again, by the same logic, in the numerator, take the budgeted production overheads. In the denominator, select some appropriate base. Normally, the base suggested for overheads, which is production overheads, is estimated labor hours or machine hours, which would be required for production. So you will get your overhead charging rate. If you have taken machine hours as the base, it will be per machine hour. If labor hour is the base, it will be per labor hour. So in my example, it is rupees 20 per machine hour. But more appropriate than this is, they are saying you find out departmental rate. What is a departmental rate? So I took example last time of a workshop, like a repair workshop. Why I'm taking example of a repair workshop? Because that is what you have been visiting regularly. So when you go to any motor vehicle workshop for getting your motor vehicle repaired, broadly, what they are doing in that workshop, which now I'm using the terminology as production, though what they are doing is not production, but just to understand the logic. In production overheads, I'm saying that whatever they are doing is production. One, they are cleaning your entire vehicle thoroughly. Then the main part they are repairing, and wherever required, they are even doing polishing, painting, removing the dent, etc. Now these three becomes their three major activities. So this is called as production departments, where department A is doing one type of work, B is doing another type of work, C is doing further another type of work. Now, why we are bifurcating our entire production work into departments? The reason is that when a customer is coming to me, it is not necessary I will be doing all production work for everyone. Like when you come for your vehicle to be repaired in my workshop, you may ask only for repairing, not for the other two things. Somebody may come for cleaning only. Somebody may come for cleaning and polishing, painting, not repairing. So there could be multiple combinations. And obviously, if I am using only a single rate, had I only calculated a single rate, not departmental rate, what would have happened? Whoever comes to me, I will charge the total overheads to that person. But that would be wrong, because if he's not coming for all the types of work, I should not charge him all the overheads. That is why we do departmental overhead recovery rate approach, so that I can find different rates for different work, so that I will charge you only for that work that you are getting done, which I'm sure you'll understand is the most appropriate way of doing this. So, why are we doing departmental rate approach? Because I want to charge my customer precisely only for the work that they are getting done from me. So, if they are getting cleaning work done, I have found out one rate for charging cleaning. So, whoever comes for cleaning, I'll charge them using this rate. Those who will come for repairing, I'll charge them using this rate. Those who will come for polishing, I'll charge them using this rate. And then whoever does multiple work, I'll charge them two or three things depending upon what they have done. So this will ensure that I'm charging appropriately to my customers. There is nothing unfair from my side, and also there is nothing unfair from their side. So nobody is having any issue, and the things are getting correctly done. This is the main purpose. So in the departmental rate approach, I have to further divide my production activity into one is the production departments, that is the various type of activities I do on the product. And the second is in the production department, even though I'm doing production or that is my main purpose, but I find that for doing the production smoothly, I require some support activities. Like in a workshop, they will need one department which will be storing all the goods that they need for doing their production. Like for cleaning, they will keep all the cleaning items. They need to keep all the spare parts, all the items required for repairing, like oil, grease, nut bolts, everything. And further, for painting, polishing, you need to keep all the different types of paint, varnishes, different things which are used in painting and polishing. All these things have to be kept and properly managed. So that is where the stores department comes into picture. Similarly, within the workshop, I have a repairs and maintenance department, which is doing repairs and maintenance of the machine that are used in these activities. So this is how my entire production can be broken up further into departments broadly of two types: production, service. Now what I do is, whatever was my production overheads, which I got from the production overheads register, that overheads or that expense, now I will divide in all these five departments. So what is my practical part that we are now going to see is I have to first divide all my expenses in these five departments. This is the first step, which is called as primary distribution of production overheads. Now, how will I divide this in all my departments? Some theory points which are asked in theory questions. I do it by two steps. One is allocation, one is apportionment. What is allocation? What is apportionment? All these expenses which I want to divide between these departments, you will find that some of these expenses are such that they are already given as a separate figure for each department. So you already know how much is for A, how much is for B, how much for X, how much for Y. It is already known. So these expenses at the time of paying, at the time of incurring itself, are paid separately for each department. So I already know the independent figures. I simply have to put the figure in the respective column. So where the expenses are already given as a bifurcation in your sum, you simply put the expense in the respective column, that is called as allocation, which means giving to the respective department what belongs to that department. But there would be many expenses which are incurred, which are paid commonly for the whole business, like light bill, like rent. We just talked about lease, so lease, rent. All these are paid commonly for the whole business. When they are paid commonly for the whole business, we need to divide, we need to apportion these common expenses between my departments. Now, how will I do this? I'll do this by finding out some ratio. In maths, we do any type of division using some ratios. So I will find out some appropriate ratio to bifurcate all these expenses to the departments. Now, the ratio which I'm going to use is over here called as basis of apportionment. Apportionment means dividing. So you need some basis, you need some ratio. These ratios are called as basis of apportionment. So at the end of primary distribution, after dividing all these expenses, I will find cost of department A, B, C, D. So what I've done, all my overheads cost, I have bifurcated between the departments so that I get the cost of each department because this is what I wanted to find out the charging rate of each department. But right now, I'm not going to calculate the charging rate because there are some expenses like of these departments, which are called as service departments. These departments are not doing anything for the customer. So when you bring your vehicle is not going in my stores. Your vehicle is not using the repairs maintenance service of my repairs maintenance department. These departments are giving service to the other departments, like stores department is giving service to the production departments to keep their material. Similarly, repairs maintenance department is also giving service to the other departments for repairing their machines. Now, since you are as a customer not using the services of these departments, I cannot charge you the cost of these departments because you're not using their service. But I will charge the expenses to my production department. Same reason, because production departments are using their service. So this step where I charge the expenses of my service department to my production department. This step is called as redistribution. Why it is called as redistribution? Because already first time distribution I've done above, which is primary. So now I am again dividing the figures of service department to production department, which is called as or it is called as secondary. Again, I'll use some ratio, and using that ratio, I'll divide the expense. Since I've divided these expenses to the other department, at the end of secondary distribution, the expenses of service department will be 0. And now I will have only expense of production department A, of B, of C. Now I will select a suitable base. Again, I'm using the word select because there is no base for any of the overheads. You have to decide using your judgment, your experience, what you feel is more appropriate so that the expenses get charged properly. So what I do is, since this department is doing cleaning, I will divide it by the number of vehicles it will clean. So that roughly I'll get how much will be my cleaning cost per vehicle. So let us say I get 100 rupees. So now whenever your vehicle comes for cleaning, I know that per vehicle I'm incurring the overheads of rupees 100 for cleaning. So accordingly, I can charge you the cost. Similarly, for repairing, I'll use the hours as the base because different vehicles may have different complexity requiring different time to repair. So I want to charge different vehicles differently depending upon whatever repairing is required. So better is I'll use hours as the base so that I'll get my cost per hour. Let us say I'm getting rupees 50 per hour as the cost for doing the repair work. Now, when I calculate this, that I'm incurring rupees 50 per hour for repairing, whatever vehicle is requiring 2 hours for repairing, I will charge only for 2 hours. Whichever vehicle requires 10 hours, I'll charge for 10 hours. So automatically, if your repairing requirement is more, automatically more cost will be charged, which is logical and which is going to give me the perfect cost. And similarly, for this department, which is going to do painting, obviously, again, I should select such a base that where I'm doing more painting for your vehicle, I should charge more. So I've selected the square feet. That is how much painting I'm doing. I'm calculating in the terms of area. So I'm using square feet as the base so that I'll get some cost per square feet. Let us say I'm getting 145. So for production overheads, we find out rate for each department separately by the steps. First is primary, where you divide all expenses to all your departments. Then secondary, where you divide the service expense to production. And third, where you divide these total overheads that you got by the respective basis to find out the charging rates. Now, this is all what we discussed in the previous lecture. Now, once you have understood this, we can now take up practical sums, which I had just given you an overview in the last lecture. Let me take chat box. So somebody is saying, sir, what is meaning of fabricating? See, fabricating is one of the processes or one of the ways of doing production. So in fabrication, we use this word fabrication. You join two different parts. Like for example, when you do welding, if you have seen welding, what you do is you join two parts. So fabrication is one such process or step whereby whenever you are doing production, where you join 2-3 parts, that is what is fabrication. Generally, it is done by welding. Why basis of apportionment is also known as standing orders? I'll tell that, Rohan. Give me some time. I just do not want to go to entire theory at once, because then it may be too much of theory.
Sir,
Bolo.
sir, whether estimated total overhead divided by estimated base is charging, or actual base multiplied by charging estimated charging price is charging.
See, there are two steps, beta. First, understand at the start of the year, you have to find out the charging rate, which is done by this formula, where both numerator, denominator, both are estimates. Like again, I'm telling you, now this period in March, I'm preparing budget for my business. How much I'm expecting to spend in the next year, and also how much I'm expecting to do output in the next year. So when I budget these things, I get to know what is my expected expense, which is my numerator, what is my expected output, which is my denominator. When I divide this, I roughly get I will be spending roughly, in this example, rupees 25 per unit of output. Now, this is the first step in doing charging, that is calculating the charging rate, which is done using the estimated figures only. Now, when the year will start, and let us say you come to me with your work, you want me to give you the cost of this, then I will prepare cost sheet to actually charge the expense. Till now, I have just calculated the charging rate. Now, how I will charge the expense? When I'm preparing cost sheet, I'll find out how much quantity of each item I'm spending or using for you, multiplied by this charging price. Now, here the question will be what you are asking. This charging price was already calculated, as you can see below, using estimated figures both in numerator and denominator. So for the time being, I'm saying this charging price is the estimated charging price, because it is calculated using all estimated figures. This base, what is this base? For material, it is the quantity that I'm using. For labor, it is the hours that I'm using. This base, which I will multiply by the charging price. So charging price is estimated, fine. This base may be estimated, may be actual, depending upon how I'm doing costing. Like when you are coming to me, ki, sir, I want to give you audit of my business. You tell me your audit fees, and I have to tell it to you in advance before doing it. Then what I will say, ki, okay, I'll estimate how many hours I will require for your audit. I will take those hours multiplied by the charging price. I'll tell you an estimate. Now, maybe my actual hours may be more or less. You are least bothered because we have fixed the price in advance. Second possibility is I'll tell you, okay, let me first see how much work is required, and accordingly, I'll tell you that I will charge you at this rate per hour. Let us say my charging rate is rupees 2000 per hour for my audit work. Now I'll say, Rohan, let me start your audit. Let me do the audit. Whatever will be the time required, I'll charge you at the rate of 2000 per hour. You say, fine. So here the hours which I will be considering will be actual. So this part, when the costing happens, is dependent upon the nature of business. In majority businesses, since I have to fix the price beforehand, this also will be estimate. So anyways, the charging rate is estimate because it is calculated at the start of the year. The base which you have to multiply for doing charging may be actual, may be estimated, depending upon the type of business you are in. Is this fine, beta?
Yes, so the process of charging has two steps. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, got it.
Perfect. So now, students, we will start this practical part. So in practical of overheads, which is the most easy part, and I'm sure as a student you'll enjoy because it is easy, you will start getting answers. So first step we are going to start is doing primary distribution. After we study primary distribution, next step is secondary distribution or redistribution. And the third step is finding out ORR. Now, for primary, what you have to understand is you have to make a list of expenses given in the sum. And out of these expenses, some expenses would be such that in the sum itself, they will give you the department-wise figures. So what you'll be doing, simply will take the figures, put it in this particular table in the respective column. That's it. Main mathematics required is here, which is simple maths, that wherever you have some common expense that you need to bifurcate, divide in all these departments. For dividing these common expense, we will need to select some ratio that we need to study and remember what ratio will be selected for which expense. So to understand this, last time also I had taken this example, I've already uploaded this sheet. So I'm sure you all are now having this sheet in your records. So we will take up the first sum. And in this first sum, you have to do primary distribution. See, in exams, if somebody will ask you, sir, what type of sums we get? So these are all exam sums only. So either they will ask you only primary, or they will ask you only secondary, or they'll ask you everything, primary, secondary, and ORR. So depending upon the requirement of the sum, you have to solve. So in this question, we have to only do primary. Now, what data is given? They are saying that there is a manufacturing company which has 3 production departments, ABC, 2 service departments, XY. Generally, they use these terms only. So in last lecture also, whatever example I was giving you, I'm purposefully using these names. However, whatever names they are using, you have to use that particular name. Generally, they use this. Now, let us say the budgeted information. I'll just change this here. For the coming year, 25-26 is as under. So what we have budgeted, then in the coming year, these would be all the different types of figures that I have budgeted. These would be also all the different types of figures that I have budgeted. Now I have budgeted how much would be my direct material, direct labor. I have budgeted how much would be my indirect material, indirect labor. If you see, these 4 things are my cost or my expenses. Then these are the further data given in the sum, which will be used as a base. Base for what? For dividing these overheads between departments. Then again, in the question, they will give me expenses. Now, these expenses, they are not given department-wise. If you see, first 4 expenses are given department-wise. In the table below, these expenses, which they have called as other expenses, which includes rent, light bill, repairs, they have given total figures. So these are my common expenses. Now, what they are saying, prepare a statement of primary distribution, right? Now we have to start with practical. In the last lecture itself, I had said that for next lecture, be prepared with your notebooks, with your pen, with your calculators, so that you can do this practically. I'm using the word you. I want to prepare you for doing the sums of exam. And that is possible not only if you see my lecture, that is possible when you solve it yourself. So now I will be starting with this practical sum, which you are going to solve. So be prepared. Take out your notebooks. Be ready with your calculators, pens. See, here you have to prepare a table, but please don't spend your time now in drawing the columns. That you can do after the end of the lecture. So that much time would be saved. We will not unnecessarily spend that time right now. So what we are studying now, right now, is first step, which is primary distribution of production overheads. Now, as I said, in the exam, they may ask you only primary distribution. They may ask you everything that you have to follow the question. Now, what we prepare is, we prepare statement showing. Now, here I'm using the word primary distribution of production overheads. Now, let us say, after this, when we'll solve secondary, we will name this as statement showing secondary distribution of overheads. And when the question is primary plus secondary and ORR everything, then we will simply say statement showing distribution of overheads. So depending upon the question, you have to name this statement. So here, since we are only going to do primary, I'm using the word statement showing primary distribution of overheads. Now, the columns are particulars where you write the name of the expense, then the amount of the expense, basis, how you are going to divide this expense between all the departments. So it is basis of apportionment. Then one heading as production department, another heading as service department. Now here, whatever are the names of the production and service department given in the question, you will write. So here I'm writing ABC XY. Now, what I'll do is, I'll first copy all the names of the expenses given in the sum. So direct material, direct labor, indirect material, indirect labor. I'm just using short forms to save the time. Correct? Now, I'll write the other expenses also. So I have rent, I have lighting, I have repairs to plant. So it is rent, it is lighting, it is repairs to plant. Then I have power, I have depreciation of plant, I have repairs to building. Power, depreciation of plant, repairs to building. Then I have canteen, and then I have sundries. Sundries, miscellaneous, you may have any of these names. Now, I have prepared the list of all expenses which are given in the sum. Now I have to start doing primary distribution. Now here, remember, we are doing distribution of overheads, but the first two costs are direct cost. Now the question is, if we are doing distribution of overheads, if we are doing all calculation for overheads, whether direct cost should be included, the answer is no. However, there is something special. See, I'm putting a cross. You need not put this cross. You can simply put dash, but I'm putting the cross so that in your minds, when you are recalling this particular concept, this image should be fixed. Now understand this. In the production department, whatever direct material cost or direct labor cost is being incurred, it is incurred for the product. Hence, it is a direct cost, and we will not consider it in this table because this table is for overheads only. However, whatever is the direct material, direct labor used in the service department, like in my example, you have the repairs and maintenance department. Now, the repairs and maintenance department may be using some material like oil grease for doing repairing. It is direct material for the service department, but it is not direct material for my product. So, the direct material, direct labor used by the service department are indirect, are overheads for my product because they are not used for product directly. They are used for some other purpose. That some other purpose is used for production. That is how it is indirectly related to my product. It is not directly related. Now, since it is not directly related, hence only these service department, you will put the direct expenses given in the sum. You will not put the direct expense in the production department columns. This is the first most important point you have to remember. So I'll go back to the sum. I'll take only the service department expenses of direct material, direct labor. 10, 7, 20, 3 or 30, 13 it is. 10, 7, 20, 13. Now, basis of apportionment, I have not done any apportionment. I have not done any bifurcation. It was already given. So I'll write given. And this total 17 and 33, I will write in the amount column. Similarly, these two are anyways indirect. So they will appear in all the columns. So I'll copy this 8, 5, 6, 3, 1.4. 8, 5, 6, 3, 1.4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1, 4. 1 116754 6754. So firstly, what I'll do, I will simply pick and put the expenses which are already given in the sum department wise. This step theoretically is called as allocation. This is very simple, straightforward. Again, I will write over here given why this breakup was given. I did not do anything. I'll make the total and put the total here, which is mathematical and simple. Now comes the main point. For the common expenses, I have to do division, I have to do apportionment, for which I will use one of these as my basis, as the ratio. Now, what basis should be used, what ratio should be used, that is what is again a matter of judgment. Now, when we discuss this, you'll understand that it is very easy to understand what bases are used. You have to be logical with the name that is given of the expense and whatever data is given above, which you can use as the base. So my first expense is rent. If nothing is given, obviously it is rent of building, that is of premises. Now, out of all these data given, the most appropriate data which I can use as the basis for dividing this should be area. So what am I given? How much of the total area is used by department A, department B, department X, Y, etc. Since I'm paying rent area wise, so let me divide also the rent area wise, so that automatically the department which is having more area will get the more share of that cost, which is logical. Yes, Gurmeet beta, you should follow the same format which I have used, because this is the format also used in our module. See, formats are not rigid, slight variation here and there is okay. Logically or conceptually, you should understand the format. But practically, as I said, since this is the format used everywhere, you will follow this. No need of any change. Gurmeet. Fine. Now what I'll do is, I have this cost as 30,000. And these are now my ratio. So see how I will present this, because presentation is important. So 30,000 I have written in the amount column. Now here, you should have two line spaces. So here first I will write the name of the base which I am using. And in the second line space, I will write the figures which will be my ratio. So what are my figures? 800, 300, 600, 200, 150. Now you all have done maths, and please understand, when I'm saying maths, don't worry, it is the most basic maths which you would have done in 5th, 6th standard or even lower standard. That is using a ratio to divide the expense. Now we all know that while using the ratio, we can remove the zeros. But here is a challenge. It is 150, so you cannot remove 10, you have to remove 20, so it will be 1.5. This is where you have to be cautious. Many times in exams, what happened? We do what? We remove two zeros from here, because that is in our mind, and we only remove 10 from here. We take this as 15. If you do that, it will go wrong. I'm sure you understand this mathematically how it is wrong. So if you're removing this, you'll have to take 1.5 here. So now my base is 8 is to 3 is to 6 is to 2 is to 1.5 is to 6 is to 2 is to 1.5. So do this carefully in the exam, because this is the most simplest and the scoring topic. But we end up complicating it. We end up messing it by taking wrong figures. If you are not comfortable doing this, then best what I always do is I take the full amount given in the question. 600. See, those who are very good at maths can take the reduced figures. Those who are like me, that you don't want to take a risk, or where you are not confident about your maths, take the figures as given in the question, right? So there is no rule for this. You can do it as per your convenience and what will be easy for you in exams. Now comes the most interesting part, right? What is this most interesting part? I go back to the smaller figures because I'm more comfortable with that. So 8, 3, 6, 2. Now, how do we do ratios in sums or in maths? We add up this. So 8 plus 3, 11, plus 6 is 17, plus 2 is 19, plus 1.5 is 20.5. Now we all know that how do you do ratio? You divide this 30,000 by 20.5 and then you multiply by these respective figures to get the bifurcated amount, right? So I do that. Somebody has given me the answer. Thank you very much. It will be helpful in making our steps or this easy and faster. So I'll take it from the chat box. Other may just confirm that amount. So Vishal has given me this amount. 11,707 is the first amount given by Vishal. You may please check on your calcs. So it is 11,707. The next figure which Vishal has given is 4390. You can round it off. You can remove the decimals and we very well know how to do that. 8780, 2927 and 2196. So just ensure that the total matches. So students, I hope this is clear. We all are very good at doing the ratios and it is the most simplest thing in maths. And this is where this particular topic is the most easy and the most scoring. Bhumika, but I have not understood the figure which you have put. Maybe if you are talking about the next one, fine, we will check. So this is how you do the breakup, which I'm sure everybody knows. Now let me take you to the next cost. Now, which is the next cost? The next cost is lighting, 12,000. Again, I have to select an appropriate base. What is the base which I can use? Please see the data given. So I can use light points. What are light points? The number of buttons that you have. So wherever obviously I'll have more light points, I will have more light bill. So this becomes my ratio for lighting cost. Firstly, how much is lighting cost? 12,000. So I will write 12,000 here. Again, in the first line, I will write the base name, which is light points. And then I will write the ratio. Again, what is the ratio? It is 45, 20, 35. Again, if you want, you can reduce it by dividing everything by 5. We all know how to do that. But if you do not want to get into all that janjat and make it simple, you can keep the whole figures without reducing it. So whatever is more convenient for you students, follow that. The only thing is your calculation should be correct. You should not mess up this calculation because it is the most easy part. Right? Now what is very important is ensure that you will use the right basis. Right? So I've given you the base. Rent, it is area. Lighting, it is light points. Now for repairs, what would be the basis, students? Again, see this list. For repairs, it is repairs of what? It is repairs of my plant. Now, since it is repairs of my plant, what would be the appropriate base? The base has to be linked to the plant. So I have this base given in the sum, which is value of plant. So the base which I'm going to use over here is value of plant. Again, in the bracket, I'll write the ratio. Now comes power. Now see, what is power? First understand. Power is the expense which you incur for running your machines. It is also electricity, but the difference between lighting, if you are given lighting or electricity, that is different and power is different. Somebody corrected me that you have written wrong base. So I'm just correcting it. Okay. Yeah, coming back to, see, both these are your lighting expense. Lighting is also light bill. power is also light bill. But what happens in industries, since machines use huge quantity of power, the meter, the connection is many times different. Firstly, because it requires huge load, so you should have a different connection which will carry that much load. Secondly, the bill or the electricity rate many times differ because what lighting you are using in office and what you are using for running machines, the electricity department may wish to charge different rates. So there are different costs given generally in the question. Both are electricity costs, but one is for general lighting, that is for fans, ACs, tube lights, etc. And one is for running your machine, for which the word used is power. Now, when you are using or selecting a base for power, please understand, student, the recommended base is by multiplying two figures. What are these two figures? One is called as horsepower and the other is the machine hours. Generally, you are given both these figures in the sum. So when you are given both these figures, you have to multiply both these figures. So in my example, I'm given horsepower, I'm given machine hours. So I'll multiply both these values, and the multiplication of these two values will be my ratio. Now you'll see that both these values are given only in three departments. They are production department. Why? Because we are talking about the power or the electricity used for running machine, which will be obviously in production department only. Correct? So I'll simplify this. I'll remove the zeros. Be careful when you're reducing some value. So 200 into 5. What is the ratio I'm getting? I'm getting 1000. 800 into 3. What is the ratio I'm getting? I'm getting 2400. 500 into 4. What is the ratio I'm getting? I'm getting 2000. So this is my ratio for power. 1000, 2400, 2000. How did I get this ratio? I multiplied both these values. So this is what you have to understand, students, that for electricity, which is used for running machines, for which the question will say power expenses or electricity for machine expenses, you have to multiply these two values and that figure becomes your ratio. Correct, students? So this is what you will do for power. Now we come for depreciation of plant. Again, for depreciation of plant, I have to use a base which is related to plant. So it is value of plant again. Then I have repairs to building. Again, I have to use a base suitable for building. Again, it is area. Now canteen. Now students, understand this. Canteen is used by whom? It is used by employees. Now it is used by employees for their tea break, for their lunch break. So for canteen, I should use some base related to employees. So see, I'm given here number of employees. So I'll use this as my base. Okay. So see, you can see how this working is done. The workings are not difficult. For each expense, select a base. That is by linking the expense with the data given. Then take the ratio of that base and start using your calculator. Similarly, for light bill, light points. For repairs to plant, value of plant. Power, HP multiplied by machine hours. Again, depreciation of plant, value of plant. Repair of building area. So you have to take the most suitable base for that expense for charging or dividing that expense between all the departments. Now, for sundry or miscellaneous expense, there are two possible things. One is direct wages or the other is machine hours. You have to select one of these two. Now, which one will you select will depend upon the question. Where my question says that my work is labor intensive, that is, whatever production I'm doing is more using labor and less using machines, then the base I will use will be of labor, which in my example is direct wages. So we have this direct wages, direct labor. I'll use this as the base. For what? For sundries. So for sundries, there are two bases. One is the labor base, that is direct wages. One is the machine base, which is machine hours. I have machine hours, no doubt, but I will not use machine hours here because my work is labor intensive. So wherever your work is labor intensive, you'll use the labor base for dividing the sundry expenses cost. Here, we will use direct wages. Students, I hope you have understood this. Now, I'll give you the chance to complete this. So you already have the expenses. If somebody is not having, I'm just on this screen, you can take a screenshot of this so that we'll have these figures. I'll just make it clear if it is not visible. I'll remove all these markings so that you can easily read these figures. Okay. So take a screenshot of this if by chance you're not having this table or this sheet with you, right? Hope you have taken the screenshot. Now, this is the format of working. I give you next 10 minutes to do the working. So please use your calculators, use it diligently. Don't make a haste in completing fast because that may lead to some clerical errors. Don't do that. Solve this. Then I'll come and answer your conceptual questions, which you have put in the chat box. I'm not taking it right now because unnecessary. Too much of theory and conceptual is boring also. And many times it does not connect after some period of time. So let us now do some practical. Then I can answer your questions in the chat box. Chalo. Next 10 minutes, you have to solve.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, can you please open that page again, question wala?
Why, beta? I think students will need this, na?
Yes, sir.
Why you need that page, beta?
Sir, actually, I forgot to write, take screenshot.
When I was saying you should do it at that time, na? Take it now, please. Done?
Yes, sir.
Students, should we check? Vishal, should I unmute you? Will you give me all the figures so that I'll write, then maybe others can confirm? Yes. Whom should I unmute? Hello, who will give me all figures? See, right, wrong, don't worry. That we will cross check. I just want somebody to take the lead in giving me the figures. See, I'll wait for more maximum 5 minutes. Neeraj, tell me. Neeraj, you had raised your hand. Silesh, I've unmuted you also.
Hello.
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
सर indirect material से बोले क्या?
Indirect material, I've already written indirect material and labor. I want
rent से बोल रहा हूँ.
बताइए.
11,707
Hmm.
4390
Hmm.
8780
Hmm.
2927
Hmm.
2196.
Okay. After this.
Light 4,000.
Okay.
1778
Hmm.
3111
Hmm.
13333
One.
333
Huh.
1778 लाइट का.
ठीक है.
रिपेयर्स एंड प्लांट का है 2636
Hmm.
2015
Hmm.
2791
Hmm.
248
Hmm.
310.
Okay. Power.
Power 2778
Hmm.
6667
Hmm.
4 times 5
Hmm.
and 2 are nil, sir.
Hmm.
Depreciation of plant.
Hmm.
16473,
Hmm.
12597,
Hmm.
17442,
Hmm.
1550,
Hmm.
1938.
Okay.
Repair to building 5854,
Hmm.
2195,
Hmm.
4390, 1463, 1098. Canteen
Okay.
expenses 5169,
Hmm.
7754, 5538, 2215, 3323. And sundry miscellaneous 7669, 4601, 7669, 3067, 1994.
1 second. 7. Please repeat this.
7669,
Hmm.
4601,
Hmm.
7669, 3067.
1 second. 1 second. You have to repeat this again from department A.
7669, sir.
Okay.
4601,
Hmm.
7669,
Hmm.
3067,
Hmm.
1994.
ठीक है. And what is the total of each department?
तो टोटल मैंने नहीं क्या है
कोई बात करिए बताइए.
जी सर.
Some people have given me totals, and as expected, the totals are varying. Sujal has given me, Prem has given me, but the totals are not matching. So firstly, I'll request that you all please check the figures which I have given or I have written. I'm not claiming they may be 100% right only, but you can just check. Let me know which figure of yours is not matching with this. You can recheck this. And if these figures are matching, we can take the total. Okay. Now see, common problems, power, how to calculate. You have to multiply these two figures. Here, what are these two figures? 200 plus 50,000. So I've reduced this 50,000 by removing 0. So it is now 200 into 5. It is coming to 1,000. Then 800 into this, I've removed these zeros. So 800 into 3, 2,400. Then 500 into this, I've removed the zeros. वैष्णव बेटा मैं पावर का एक फिगर बता रहा हूँ, ध्यान दो. 500 into 4, it is coming to 2,000. So now the ratio for power is 1,000, 2,400, 2,000. Use this ratio for dividing the power expense. Power is how much? 15,000. Divide it in the ratio of 10, 24, 20. So if I reduce this ratio, 10 is to 24 is to 20. Divide करो. Yes, Vaishnavi, Sneha, power का divide करो. And tell me if it is matching with what is written on the screen. Till that, Bunny Preet, you are saying depreciation is not matching. See, the expense is depreciation of plant, for which the ratio to be taken is value of plant. How much is value of plant? The value of plant is this. So I'm writing the ratio here. It is 85 is to 65 is to 90 is to, आपने जो मिस्टेक की वो यहाँ पे की है, 8 is to 10. आपने रेशियो लेते हो तो यहाँ पे 80 ले लिया है. अब आप इस रेशियो में बनी प्रीत डेप्रिसिएशन ऑफ प्लांट विच इज 50,000, आप इसे डिवाइड करिए इस रेशियो में और फिर चेक करिए आंसर मैच हो रहा है या नहीं हो रहा है. नो अभिषा, आपको डेसिमल के बाद के वैल्यूज नहीं लेने हैं, आपको इग्नोर करके राउंड ऑफ कर सकते हैं। गुड धरणी, गुड स्नेहा। So Suraj is giving me answers for X. Suraj is giving me total as 47736. I'm just taking the totals given by Suraj. सूरज ने मुझे टोटल दिया है for X. The total given by Suraj is 47736. For Y, he has given me 36043. Students, please take totals. Tell me the totals, whether it is matching. सूरज ने मुझे एक और फिगर दिया है for B52997. Sorry, not Suraj, it is Saroj. Then Saroj has given me next figure of 60607. गुरमीत बेटा, आपका किस पॉइंट से रिलेटेड है वो बताइए।
हेलो
बोलिए।
सर, टोटल आया है फर्स्ट ए का 75,286,
हम्म
52,997,
हम्म
68,276,
हम्म
50,803,
एक मिनट, आपने सी का क्या बताया?
68,276,
ओके, थोड़ा ये आपका अलग है तो मैं लिख लेता हूँ। 68।
276,
ओके, एक्स का?
50,803,
वाई का?
38,037।
सो आपके फर्स्ट टू फिगर्स सेम है, आपके बाकी के तीन फिगर्स अलग है with Saroj. Okay, I have written. Students, please check and confirm me what figures you are getting. Rajkumar, keep your mics muted if you are not talking to me. Yes. Students, please check करिए। आई होप अब ये बहुत सिंपल मैथ्स है, आपको सिर्फ टोटल्स लेनी है। सुनील इज सेइंग सर रिपेयरमेंट ऑफ प्लांट 8000। सुनील, तो क्या कहना है आपको?
सर
बोलो।
सर जब राउंड ऑफ कर रहे हैं तो सभी को राउंड ऑफ करेंगे ना?
ऑब्वियसली बेटा, राउंड ऑफ सभी को करेंगे ना, आप कहीं पे डेसिमल कहीं पे राउंड ऑफ, ऐसा क्यों करोगे?
नहीं, कहीं कहीं पे वो एक्सपेंस अमाउंट टोटल अमाउंट से मैच करने के लिए कहीं कहीं पे ना 1 रुपए से कम या ज्यादा ऐसे टाइप का
बेटा
हो
वो
जाता है।
राउंड ऑफ करो ना बेटा, वो तो मैथ्स में आपने सीखा है ना।
नहीं, जब राउंड ऑफ करके टोटल करें तो 1 रुपए सब में ज्यादा आ रहा है। एक्सपेंसेस,
बेटा वो
टोटल
एडजस्ट
एक्सपेंस।
करो, बेटा वो एडजस्ट करो। ये बात आप मुझे अभी कैसे पूछ सकते हो? आपने मैथ्स में किया है ना बचपन से? नहीं किया?
नहीं, सब राउंड ऑफ कर रहे हैं तो 1 रुपए ज्यादा आ रहा है, वही बात मैं आपको
अरे
बता रही हूँ।
राजा, बेटा ज्यादा आ रहा है तो आप उसको किसी भी एक फिगर में से माइनस कर लो। आपने पहले कभी नहीं किया रेशियो से डिवाइड फिगर्स? किया होगा ना पहले मैथ्स में भी।
हाँ
जब भी
सर।
ज्यादा आ रहा है या कम आ रहा है, उसे किसी भी एक डिपार्टमेंट में एडजस्ट करो।
सर तो फिर सबका अलग अलग आएगा, कोई किसी में
दो
एडजस्ट
तीन
करेगा,
रुपए से
कोई
फर्क
किसी में।
होगा।
एक दो
फर्क दो
रुपए
तीन
से।
रुपए से होगा ना।
हाँ
अभी तो इधर
ठीक है
बहुत
सर।
बड़ा फर्क आ रहा है, इधर 60,000 आ रहा है, इधर 68,000 आ रहा है। इतना फर्क राउंडिंग ऑफ का कभी नहीं होगा ना बेटा।
नहीं, मेरा 68,277 आ रहा है, चलेगा ना उतना?
बेटा अभी प्रॉब्लम ये है ना, अगर ये 277 आ रहा है तो कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, मगर इसका 6607 था, तो ये और ये बहुत फर्क है। अगर आपका इसके आसपास 2 4 5 रुपए का भी फर्क है, इट इज फाइन।
ओके सर।
चलो बेटा, आई विल नॉट स्पेंड टाइम इन दिस। आई 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 विल लीव दिस टू योर मैथमेटिकल विजडम। कि क्योंकि अब मैं भी नहीं बोल सकता इसमें से सही कौन सा है, क्योंकि वो सिंपल मैथ्स था, तो मैंने कोई कैलकुलेटर यूज नहीं किया है. आई हैव रिलाइड ऑन योर मैथ्स एंड कैलकुलेटर एबिलिटीज. वाओ, आई हैव अ गुड क्वेश्चन सर. टोटल लेना कहाँ से स्टार्ट करें? टोटल लेना बेटा जहां से जितने फिगर से वहां से करेंगे ना. अगर फिगर यहाँ से है तो आप यहाँ से टोटल लोगे. फिगर अगर यहाँ से है तो आप यहाँ से टोटल लोगे. बेटा आपको उस कॉलम के सारे एक्सपेंसेस का टोटल लेना है, तो उसमें फिगर्स जहां से होगा आपको वहां से लेना है टोटल. करेक्ट ना? Students, I think I'll proceed with the next part because I think as per the details which I'm seeing, the second line is more correct because I'm getting more answer nearer to the second line. So I'm considering the second one is correct. So A and B is same. C, X, Y of the second line, I think is more correct, more appropriate with a difference of 1 or 2 rupees. That is fine. Sure. Now, so primary distribution, I hope everybody is understanding. I'll take two more examples. This I will only give you the answers on the face of it so that we can understand and proceed. Now it is given in question two. Again, there is a manufacturing company having three production departments. Now the name of these departments is PQR. Two service department name is S&T. So the data is changed. Again, let us say it is 25-26. That is the next financial year. Now, first expense is direct material, direct labor. You will ignore for the first three departments, which are production. You will take these two figures. The next three are all indirect costs, indirect material, indirect labor, salary. You will take it for all departments. Okay? So firstly, these five expenses given in the question would be taken as it is, as per what I have explained. Then we go to the common cost, which is given below. They are saying depreciation of building. Now see out of the data what is more relevant to building. Here, the data relevant to building is area. So for this 70,000 expense, the base that I will use is area. Please mark it. आप इसे बाद में कैलकुलेटर पे सॉल्व कर सकते हैं. करेक्ट. नेक्स्ट. Bhumika, but I already explained this. I think you were not attentive at that time. I explained this in the previous lecture also and today also before I started solving the first question. Next is the lighting expense. Now for lighting expense, in this question, light points are not given. See, that is why I purposefully took this question because it is not completely replica of the previous question. There are some differences. Now in this question, lighting expenses, light points are not given. Now here where you have to use your judgment. So lighting will be more appropriately linked again with the area. Because bigger the area, more number of light, tube lights, fans, and light points will be having. So again, for this 45,000 area will be used. Municipal tax, which is again of building. So again, area will be used. So for first three common cost, what we will be using is area as the base. I hope this is clear to all. Now the next expense is repairs, and now this is of plant. It is not of building. So again, you have to be very cautious with the question. What is the base that you are finding relating to plant? Here I have only one base relating to plant, that is value of plant. So for repairs to plant, this 15,000, the base that I will be using is value of plant. Again, for this depreciation 25,000, the base that I will be using is value of plant. Correct? So these are my two expenses relating to plant. I will be using value of plant. There is one more expense of building. So again, for this, I will be using area. So for this 15,000, again, the base which I'm using is of area. Now power. For this 45,000 power, the base that I will use is, do I have horsepower? Yes. Do I have machine hours? Yes. So again, what I have to do is HP multiplied by machine hours. So I will take HP, I will multiply it by machine hours. The multiplication of these two figures will give me the answer. So same like previous sum, here also for power, you have to take HP multiplied by machine hours. Correct? Then for labor welfare, for this 24,000, you have number of employees. So again, same basis, that is employees. And then for sundries, now, again, this question is different. Please read the starting. It says a manufacturing company having 3 production machine departments. So here they are saying that here your work is mechanized. You are using more of machines than labor. So for sundries here, I will be using machine hours as my basis. Correct? Yes, Tanvi. What is your question? But you said power. So what you want to say for power? I already explained. For power, it will be machine hours multiplied by HP as we did in the previous sum. Yes, Bhumika, you are right. So students, please see, I repeat, in other expenses for depreciation of building, I have taken area. For lighting expense here, since no light points are given, more appropriate is area. For municipal tax, area. For repairs to plant, I will take value of plant. For power, I will take HP multiplied by machine hours. Depreciation of plant, again, I'll take value of plant. Repairs of building, I'll take area. Labor welfare, I'll take number of employees. Sundries, I will take machine hours. Right, students? I hope this is very clear to everyone. Any doubts? Any questions?
Sir, in the previous question, for the sundry expenses, can we take the number of employees as the basis for apportionment?
No, beta, you should not take number of employees, because number of employees and labor hours or wages are two different things. Reason being, you may have 100 employees, but all are not paid at the same rate. All are not working for the same hours. So I want to apportion it more linked with how much everyone has worked. And I'm sure you'll understand and appreciate this, that different workers will be working for different number of hours depending upon the work they are having, plus different workers depending upon their level of work, their skill of work would be paid at different rate. So the most appropriate basis is wages rather than number of employees for sundries. This is
Okay,
fine.
sir. Okay, sir.
Good. Let me take one more example and then we'll go to secondary distribution. Now, what is this next question? Again, it is slightly different from the previous one. I've purposefully not taken same type of question because it is simply repetition. I want to take different type of questions to tell you what can be other different possibilities in exam. So now you have the following data pertains to machine shop. So again, it says that your production is machine driven. This you have to keep in mind. This helps you in apportioning the miscellaneous or the sundry expenses. Again, the data is, let us say, relating to 25-26. The machine shops have 3 cost centers, A, B, C. So these are your departments. Most important, how this question is different, it has not given you service department. So this is the only slight different point in this. So here I have purposefully taken a question where there is no service department. So see, in real business world, you have so many combinations. So either you may have only production departments, you may have one production department and multiple service department. You can have different combinations. This is one of them. Now, what is the data? Number of workers, number of machine hours, HP percentage, value of asset. So all these are data. Now my first cost given is direct wages. Since these 3 are production departments, I will not consider the direct wages in my sheet because direct wages is taken only for service departments, not for production departments. Indirect wages will be taken. Now they have given total figure for indirect. So the basis which I'm going to use is my direct wages. So for distributing, dividing this, I will use direct wages as the ratio. Then you have supervisor's salary. Now what could be the appropriate basis for supervisor salary? It would be number of workers because the supervisor is handling the worker. So more the number of workers, more should be the share. So here I will be using number of workers as my basis. Depreciation, they have not mentioned depreciation of what? No problem. Anyways, here also they have given a general word, value of all assets. So we consider value of assets here for apportionment. Insurance, same, because depreciation and insurance both have a linkage with value. So here I'll consider value. Next, electricity. Now here, for electricity, if it is general lighting, we will consider area or light points. But neither of the two are given. Neither area is given nor light points are given. So electricity, I'm considering it as the power electricity. So I have machine hours, I have HP. I'll again multiply this. And whatever figure I'll get, that becomes my basis. For welfare, again, I will take number of workers. And for office and other expenses, which is miscellaneous, I will take machine hours. Why? Because this department is a machine department. Mahalakshmi Singh, sir, can we take to calculate indirect wages, can take number of employees ratio? Preferably, beta, Mahalakshmi, do not take number of employees for the same reason which I explained earlier, that number of employees and wages will not match when it comes to ratio because few employees will be working for more hours, so maybe paid more wages. Similarly, some employees may have a different wage rate because of their skill set, so their wages would be different. So taking number of employees should be limited only to expenses like labor welfare, because there it is exclusively dependent with number of employees. Like canteen, it is no connection with wages. A highly paid employee will use more of canteen and a low paid employee will use less of canteen. That is not the case. Canteen is canteen where each worker have the same type of consumption, or we assume that. So there only number of workers is required. But for expenses like indirect wages and all, the preferable thing is direct wages. Similarly, I hope I've answered your question, right? Perfect. Now, so this is how students you do primary distribution. Once you have understood this, now let me take examples of secondary. Understand one thing. Secondary will start after primary is done. Now, what is the difference between the sum of primary and secondary? If you see in all the sums of primary distribution that we just discussed and solved, you are given expenses names like indirect material, depreciation, rent, power, canteen. However, if it would be a secondary distribution question like this, they will directly give you expenses of each department, like how you are given here, expenses of these departments, A, B, C, X, and Y. So since primary is done, like how we did in our example also, primary is done. At the end of primary, now you get overheads of each department. So it is A, B, C, X, Y. So whenever the sum will be of secondary distribution, the sum will always start with the expense of each department. Here now, expenses will not be given because it has already been apportioned. It will start with the cost of each department. So that is how there is a difference between primary and secondary distribution question. So पवन बेटा, प्राइमरी और सेकेंडरी के क्वेश्चन में फर्क ही आएगा. प्राइमरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन के क्वेश्चन में आपको खर्चों के नाम दिए रहेंगे इस प्रकार से, क्योंकि वहां पे आपको सारे डिपार्टमेंट्स में डिवाइड करना है. सेकेंडरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का सम होगा, तो क्योंकि प्राइमरी हो चुका है तो अब आपके पास सीधे खर्चों की टोटल दी रहेगी डिपार्टमेंट के नाम से, जैसा ये वाला मेरा एग्जाम्पल है क्वेश्चन नंबर 5 मेरे शीट में, जहां पे सीधे मैंने आपको हर डिपार्टमेंट के खर्चे की टोटल दे दी है, क्योंकि यहाँ पे जो आपके खर्चे थे, रेंट, लाइट बिल, वो सब आपने प्राइमरी में डिवाइड कर दिए. सो सेकेंडरी का सम अगर आएगा, केवल सेकेंडरी का सम, तो उस सम में प्राइमरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हो चुका होगा, तो आपको खर्चा दिया रहेगा डिपार्टमेंट के नाम से. ठीक है. नाउ सेकेंडरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करने के लिए अब मुझे वापस रेशियो चाहिए, पर अब रेशियो क्या चाहिए कि हर एक सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट ने बाकी डिपार्टमेंट्स को कितना सर्विस दिया है. आई नीड दिस रेशियो कि दिस सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट हैज गिवन हाउ मच सर्विस टू द अदर डिपार्टमेंट, सो दिस रेशियो इज गिवन. नाउ दिस रेशियो में बी गिवन अगेन एज रेशियो, जैसा ऊपर दिया था प्राइमरी में, या दे में गिव परसेंटेज. एनीवेज वी वांट अ रेशियो, वी वांट अ मैथमेटिकल फिगर. सो या तो वो ऐसा ही देंगे जैसा ऊपर दिया था. सो ये एक एग्जांपल है जो हम बाद में सॉल्व करने वाले हैं. आपको वापस नाम दे दिया, आपको फिगर्स दे दिए, यू विल यूज दिस फिगर्स एज अ रेशियो, विल डील विद दिस लेटर. ये आपको सीधे बोल दिया, service department has given so much of service to each production department, you will take this as the ratio.
Yes.
Right? Similarly,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
fine. Similarly, Y department, how much service it has given to other departments, the ratio is given. Correct?
Yes, sir.
अब आपको इस डेटा से you have to do secondary distribution. ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
But please don't repeat. Yeah. Now pay attention. Primary distribution was expenses को departments में divide करना, that we did. But when it comes to secondary distribution, we have to understand that in secondary distribution, in real world, there could be different possibilities. What are these different possibilities? Let us understand. If I'm taking the same example, you have 3 production departments, A, B, C, 2 service departments, X and Y. Now there could be different possibilities. What is the possibility? Possibility 1, service departments are giving services only to the production departments. So as you can see, first possibility is X is giving service only to ABC. Similarly, Y is only giving service to ABC. First possibility. Third possibility is X is giving service to ABC and also it is giving service to Y. But Y is giving services only to ABC. There is no service given by Y to X. So X Y को दे रहा है, Y वापस X को नहीं दे रहा है. This is the second possibility. First possibility में X और Y दोनों ही एक दूसरे को नहीं दे रहे. So the difference is here. So in first possibility, no service department is giving to the other. In the second possibility, one is giving to the other, but the other one is not giving to the first one. Then the third possibility. What could be the third possibility? The third possibility is वापस service departments production वाले को दे रहे हैं, and also it is giving to the other service department. Similarly, Y is also giving to the production departments, and it is again giving service to X. So see the difference. Difference is here between these three possibilities. These service departments एक दूसरे को सर्विस दे रहे हैं, this is the difference. So in first case, X, Y not giving any service to one another. ना X Y को दे रहा है, ना Y X को दे रहा है. This is what is called as the direct method. In the second scenario, एक सर्विस डिपार्टमेंट दूसरे को दे रहा है, मगर दूसरा वापस पहले वाले को नहीं दे रहा है. So it is only one giving to the other, not vice versa. This is called as step ladder method. बड़ा आपको आपके माइक्स बंद रखने हैं. दिस इज अ हम्बल रिक्वेस्ट. अननेसेसरली अपने आप को अनम्यूट मत करिए प्लीज. You will unmute only when you have a question. First you'll raise your hand, then I'll allow, only then you should unmute. Third possibility is both service departments are giving service to one another. तो X Y को भी दे रहा है सर्विस, Y भी X को दे रहा है. This is what is called as the reciprocal method. Both these are called as non. So reciprocal means एक दूसरे को देना. Non-reciprocal is it could be only one-sided. Now reciprocal में where both are giving services to one another, there are two methods suggested. One is called as repeated distribution method. इसी को ट्रायल एंड एरर मेथड भी नाम दिया गया है. So these are the names. So the first method in reciprocal category is repeated distribution or trial and error. The second optional method is simultaneous equation method. So we have total 5 methods. Direct, step ladder. Both these methods are giving the same answer or have the same format, but names are different. And then the next one is simultaneous. So direct method, step ladder method, trial and error method, repeated distribution method, simultaneous equation. Now please understand, students, out of these different methods, you have to solve your exam sum only by one of the methods which is given in the question. तो जो इनमें से केस होगा आपको उस केस के हिसाब से सॉल्व करना है, which would be given in the question. अब जब मैं आपको सिखाने वाला हूं, I will take one question which I will solve by all the 4 methods. Why I'll take the same question and solve by 4 methods? So that when the same question, same figures are taken, but solved by different methods, you will understand comparatively what is the difference between these methods. Correct? So first take a screenshot of this so that I can now start solving the sums by each of these methods. Okay? Now, I've been solving question number 5 by all the 4 methods. So let me start with the first method, that is the direct method under the non-reciprocal category. So question 5, we are going to do only secondary distribution because that is what is the requirement of the question. Same format, statement showing. Now I'll use the word secondary distribution. Of production overheads. Particulars, amount rupees, basis of apportionment, product departments, service departments, जो भी नाम दिया रहेगा. Here it is again ABCXY, so I'm using that. Now, please understand, secondary starts from here. So you have done primary, you are already having the total overheads of each department. So secondary primary के नीचे होता है. If in the same sum you have to do secondary, so आप इसके बाद वो format continue करोगे, which I am showing you बाजू में. Yeah, even you can do it. You first do primary, stop the format here, and again rewrite the format and start secondary separately. So when you'll have a combined sum, you can do it either both the format separately or simply you'll continue it below this. So your totals are now ready for each department. You will continue it below this. Now, since this question is only of secondary, I will first write the total saying that as per primary distribution. तो ये जो टोटल आपको दी है क्वेश्चन में, दैट यू गेट आफ्टर डूइंग प्राइमरी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. So to start with the question, I will first write this. So I'll take all the figures: 13,600, 14,700, 13,600, 14,700, 12,800, and then 9,000, 3,000. So this is the primary distribution figure you have. Now, we are solving this sum firstly by the direct method. अब direct method में क्या है? X is giving services to ABC but not to Y. Similarly, Y is also giving service to ABC, not to X. This is what is the case. Now, please understand, मुझे एक ही sum को सारे method से solve करना है. So, in my question, X is giving service to ABC and also to Y. क्योंकि मुझे रेसिप्रोकल से भी सॉल्व करना है, तो क्वेश्चन मैंने रेसिप्रोकल वाला लिया है. Similarly, Y is giving services to ABC and also to X, because this question is originally of reciprocal. However, if I have to solve this question, even in the exams, if they give you this question and ask you to solve by direct method, how you will solve? You will ignore the service given by X to Y and Y to X. So once you ignore service given by X to Y and Y to X, now this question becomes a question of direct method where X and Y are giving services only to production department. So exam में भी अगर ये type का question आया, ये reciprocal का question है, please understand this. How you get to know this is a reciprocal question? Because X is giving service to Y, Y is giving service to X. That you can understand from the figures given. So if this is a reciprocal question, but in exam sum, they also want you to solve it by direct method only. How will you solve? You have to erase or strike out the percentage of service given by X to Y, Y to X. So now this question becomes a question of direct method. Now, these figures, what are given? You take them as the ratio. So ratio is 40, 30, 20. So now I will divide X department expenses. Amount of X is 9,000. So I have to divide this 9,000. Ratio is given in the sum. It is 40, 30, 20. In this ratio, which is 4:3:2, I have to divide this 9,000. So I get 4, 3, 2, which is 9. Now important, क्योंकि आपने 9,000 डिवाइड कर दिया है, तो अब आप इसको 9,000 माइनस करोगे, because that amount is distributed. Y को कुछ भी नहीं मिला, तो dash. Same format. Now I will divide Y department cost. So it is Y department cost, which I have to divide. How much is Y department cost? 3,000. Ratio given. What is this ratio? 3, 3, 2. The ratio is 30, 30, 20, which is 3:3:2. So आपको ये 3,000 को इस रेशियो में डिवाइड करना है. calculator. So I have to divide 3000 in the ratio of 3:2, that is 7. So I'm getting 1286, 1286. And here I'm getting 857. Since this 3000 is also distributed, so y में से 3000 में minus करूंगा, and then I will get the final total. So now this is my final total after secondary distribution, where x has become nil क्योंकि उसमें 9000 था, मैंने 9000 डिवाइड कर दिया, y में 3000 था, 3000 डिवाइड कर दिया, and then the total cost of each department I get. Yes,
Hello,
Silesh, बोलिए.
सर 1125 होगा क्या?
हाँ
1125
क्या बेटा 1125?
सर 1286 जो आप लिखे हैं.
वो 1125 है. लेट मी अगेन चेक. आपने कैसे किया है आप मुझे बताएंगे प्लीज.
सर 3000 डिवाइडेड बाय 8.
वेयर इज 8? अच्छा, ओ सॉरी, आई हैव टेकन 7. ठीक है ठीक है. See, these are the calculation errors that happen in exams. So you are right, beta. I think even Dharni wanted to say the same thing. So it is 1125, 1125, and it is 750. Okay, thank you. Now 13600 plus 4, 17, 17, 18. So it is 18,725. 14, 17, 18. 18,825. And you have 12, 14, 15, 550. I hope students you got these figures. So this is how secondary distribution is done by the direct method. Okay. Atish, I hope now the total is coming to 3000, right? Students, please copy this. This is how question 5 will be solved by the direct method. Now again, I'm repeating this question again by the next method, which is the step ladder method. So I'm again solving this same question 5 by the step ladder method. Again, it is statement showing secondary distribution of production overheads. Again, same particulars, amount, basis of apportionment, production department, service department, A, B, C. Again, as per primary distribution. What are the figures? 13,600, 14,700, 12,800, 9,000, 3,000. Correct, students? I hope your direct method working is done. This is the working. If somebody has not completed, I request you to please take a screenshot. So this is the first method, first working. Right? Taken the screenshot if it is not done. Now, let me do it again. Now the method, the approach is called as step ladder. What is step ladder? As you would have seen here, step ladder is when one of the service department gives service to another, but other one is not giving to the first one. This approach is called as step ladder. Here, I am presuming X is given to Y. In exam, you don't have to presume it. That will be given whether X is given to Y or Y is given to X. For the time being, I am presuming X is given to Y. Now, if I have to solve this question, same question number 5 by step ladder method, where I'm assuming X is giving to Y, but Y is not giving to X, then my data will be like this. What is my data? The percentage of service given by X to A, to B, to C, and also to Y. But Y is not giving to X, so that I'm scoring out. I'm not going to consider it. For Y, I'm only going to consider the data of services given to ABC. So then this method becomes a step ladder method. I hope this is clear, students, right? Now again, I'll divide X department expense. So X department expenses. How much is the amount? 9,000. Basis is given. Ratio is 4. That is 40, 30, 20, 10. Now I'm also considering the service given by X to Y because that is what is step ladder method. One of the department is giving service to another. Now in this ratio, I will divide 9,000. So I'm getting this. 9,000 since I've distributed, so I deduct. And now some share is going to Y. Now there is a total of Y, which is 3,900. So originally Y had 3,000, it got 900 from X. Now I will divide Y department expenses, which now have become 3,900. Ratio is given in the sum. The ratio is 30 is to 30 is to 20 because Y is not giving to X. So now I divide 3,900 in the ratio of 30, 30, 20. Let me again do it in my mobile calculator. So it is now 3,900 divided by 8 multiplied by 3. So rounded off, I get 1463. 1463. Just to match, I will make it 974. Nothing is given to X. And Y has distributed entire 3,900. This is how I find the total overheads here. Now again, X and Y have become 0. Now the total of 8 is 13, 3, 16, 16 and 1, 17. So it is 17, 6, 63. 14 and 2, 16 and 1, 17. 17. 12, 13, 13 and 9, 22. 22. No, sorry. 13, 13, 6, 15, 5, 74. This is my answer by the step ladder method. So what has happened in step ladder? When I was dividing X department, I gave share to Y. But when I was dividing Y, I did not give any share to X because in step ladder, only one department gives to the other. Department is 18. Okay, 13, 7, 16, 17. Okay. You're saying it is 18,650. Okay, fine. Corrected. Yes, Neha, they will mention in the exam which method you have to take. Students, is this understood? Please take a screenshot of this. Done? Easy? Super. Now let me go to the next method, which is the repeated distribution method. The overheads is pure calculator, nothing else. So now I solve the same sum. Question number 5. We are doing secondary distribution. And now it is the reciprocal methods. And in reciprocal, we are going to do it by the repeated distribution. Nagartana, what is your question, sir? How will get the ratio 40, 30, 20, 10? Sir, 10 is given in the question, beta. Read the question, it is given in the question. Now, in reciprocal, first we are solving it by the repeated distribution method. So same format, particulars, amount rupees, basis of apportionment, production, service, A, B, C, X, Y. Again, first thing is as per primary distribution. The figures are 13,600, 14,700, 12,800, 9, 3. Again, I will divide department X expenses. Which is 9,000. Now, please understand, students. Reciprocal is when both are giving to one another. So, firstly, X is giving to ABC and also Y. Y is also giving to ABC and also X. This is originally also the sum is reciprocal, but we solved it by the other two methods to have a comparative understanding, plus to understand if in exams they do the same thing, how you have to solve. Now, when I have to solve it by the reciprocal method, that is, I have to solve the question with the complete data. X is giving to Y, Y is giving to X. Now I'll take the ratio 40, 30, 20, 10 while dividing X. So ratio, that is basis is given, it is 40, 30, 20, 10. Now pay attention. This is 3,600. This is 2,700. This is 1,800. X is distributed, so minus 9,000 from X. And Y is getting 900. So it is 3,900. Now, till this point, the question is very similar to previous method. However, now it will change. Now I have to divide department Y, which is 3,900. Ratio is given. I divide it to all departments. So what is the difference now? I am giving to X also. Correct? So let me do the working. How much I have to divide? 3,900. So I'm getting 1170, 1170, and I'm getting 780, 780. Now, what has happened after this step, students? This became 0, but now X is having 780. So see here, after first step, X was 0, Y was 3,900. Now I divided 3,900 of Y, so Y became 0, but X got 780 from Y, so now X is 780. So I have to now divide this X expenses of 780 again. Again, taking the ratio of X, which is 40, 30, 20, 10. I hope this is clear. Students, please tell me if you're understanding what we are doing. Others, please confirm if you're understanding what we are doing. Okay. Let's see, Mahalakshmi, I'll tell you till when we have to continue this. Superb. So now I start dividing this. Now Y is getting a share of 10%, which is 78. Correct? And each one of them is getting some share. So let us here it is 156. Here it is 312. Here it is 234. So these are the shares of each of the departments, right? Correct? Now, again X became nil, Y 78. Now divide Y 78. Again ratio given. Ratio of Y is 30, 30, 20, 20. Now, again X will get something somewhere around 15.6, so I'm making it 16. 16, 16. Correct? And maybe here 23. So should I make it 24, 24 to match with 78? No. Get 12 and 4. ओके, टू मेक 23 ठीक है. नाउ दिस इज nil, x is 16. Now let's divide x. Now as few people were concerned or they had a query, sir, till when we will do it? Till the time it vanishes? Obviously yes. But what do you mean by vanish? Vanish means now here when I'll divide this 16 further, y will get some share, but it is now coming into a single digit. Correct? Now when your distribution goes to single digit, that is where you will not give to the other department. So since now the division which will happen is of single digit, I will now not give it to the other department. This is how this process will stop. So now I'll only give to ABC. Correct? So I'm dividing x16. I'm not giving anything to y. I'm only giving to ABC. So the process stops. So how much I will get? 16 divided by, now it will be 9. Correct? So I'm getting roughly around 7 here. Roughly 5 here. 4 here. Yes, if I'm rounding off, this is the answer. Maybe you can take decimals. Now this is the total of A. This is the total of B. This is the total of C. Repeated distribution method. Chalo, 2 minutes I will give so that you can understand. If anybody has a question, you can ask, so that I can go to the fourth method also today itself, that comparatively you'll understand all the 4 methods together. It may take more 15 minutes, students, but I think I should take it today so that it will be more clear. When you do comparative, it is more clear. Yes, Parvez. I've unmuted you. Yes.
हेलो
Please ask, beta.
मॉर्निंग सर.
Good morning, beta.
ये जो लास्ट में आपने डिपार्टमेंट एक्स का लिया तो इसमें 40 30 20 और जो फोर्थ रेशियो ने लिया तो सिर्फ इसमें एक्सपेंसेस जो रहेगा वो डिपार्टमेंट एक्स का रहेगा.
बड़े खर्चा डिपार्टमेंट एक्स का ही था.
हाँ.
हमें क्या करना है, डिपार्टमेंट एक्स और वाई का खर्चा हमें सब में डिवाइड करना है, क्योंकि वो सबको सर्विस दे रहा है. अगर अब हम ऐसे मोड पे आ गए हैं, ऐसे स्टेज पे आ गए कि यहाँ पे जब आप एक्स का खर्चा वाई को अगर देते भी थे तो कितना आता था? 1.6. इतना ही आता था ना, ₹1.60, विच इज वेरी नॉमिनल. तो नॉमिनल है तो यहाँ पे हम रुक जाएंगे. रुक जाएंगे मतलब यहाँ पे अब हम वापस एक्स का खर्चा वाई को नहीं दे रहे हैं. तो कैसे नहीं दे रहे? हमने वाई का रेशियो जो था 10 वो इग्नोर कर दिया. अब जैसे वो रेशियो इग्नोर करोगे, ऑटोमेटिकली क्या हो जाएगा? वाई को कोई खर्चा गया ही नहीं. यानी ये जो स्टेप चलते आ रही थी, इसका नाम ही है ना रिपीटेड. क्यों इसका नाम है रिपीटेड? बिकॉज आप बार बार रिपीट कर रहे हो एक्स वाई, पर इसको कहीं तो रुकना है. तो कहाँ रोकते हैं? जब आपका आगे का आंसर सिंगल डिजिट आने वाला है. जैसे यहाँ पे अगर मैं डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करता वाई को तो कितना आता था? 1.6. तो यहाँ पे आई विल स्टॉप. अंडरस्टूड बेटा?
यस यस.
दिस इज हाउ रिपीटेड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इज डन.
मतलब जब लास्ट का डिजिट मतलब सिंगल पॉइंट्स में आ जाएंगे एक नंबर में तो हम उसको इग्नोर कर लेंगे. और इसके बाद फिर हम y के लिए नहीं जाएंगे, सिर्फ x
अब जाना ही नहीं पड़ेगा ना. अब तो y नील हो गया ना.
यस यस. ठीक है
ना? परफेक्ट.
थैंक यू.
आई होप यू ऑल हैव अंडरस्टूड इट नाउ.
सर वो सर पहला वाला जो था ना प्राइमरी वाला, उसमें थोड़ा सा इशू है. वो प्राइमरी वाला अगर आपको कल या परसों जब भी टाइम मिले ना तो एक बार जरा फिर से रिपीट कर देंगे.
बेटा आप अभी मुझसे स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन पूछोगे तो अच्छा होगा कि आपको उसमें क्या इशू है. प्राइमरी में बच्चों को जो इशू आता है वो है, एक मेरे हिसाब से, कि आपने किस खर्चे के लिए क्या रेशियो यूज करना चाहिए.
नहीं एक्चुअली क्या था, सेकेंडरी वाला जो है ना, आप एकदम तुरंत दिमाग में आ गया।
बेटा, क्योंकि
प्राइमरी वाला
सेकेंडरी में आपको
तो
कोई लॉजिक नहीं लगाना है ना, सेकेंडरी में आपको सीधे सीधे फिगर दिए, आपको सिर्फ कैलकुलेटर यूज करना है।
यस।
प्राइमरी में आपको पहले लॉजिक लगाना है कि अगर आपको रेंट बोला है तो क्या लेना है।
हम्म
तो बेटा वो तो थोड़ा सा प्रैक्टिस करोगे ना। अभी आज
हम्म,
आप जाके जो भी सम्स होंगे मॉड्यूल
हाँ।
में, या आपके पास जो भी एक्स्ट्रा प्रैक्टिस के सम्स होंगे, आप उसको जब सॉल्व करोगे तो यू
हम्म,
विल गेट दिस क्लैरिटी जो अभी आपको थोड़ा सा अनकंफर्टेबल लग रहा है। ठीक है, फिर भी नहीं
जी
समझेगा तो आप नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में पूछ लेना।
जी सर, श्योर।
ठीक है। यस, शिलेश, टेल मी।
हेलो
बोलिए।
सर, ये जो टोटल सर आया इसके बाद सर, जो ओवरहेड रिकवरी रेट है वो सर निकलेगा ना इसके बाद?
एग्जैक्टली, सो नाउ आफ्टर सेकेंडरी सी, अब आपको मिल गया टोटल ओवरहेड्स ऑफ ए, बी, सी। अब आप, अभी इस सम में तो नहीं दिया है पर आगे वाले सम में जब बेस दिया रहेगा आप इसको बेस से डिवाइड करो। समझो बेस दिया है 1000 मशीन आवर्स, तो आपको इधर ए का चार्जिंग रेट यानी ए का रिकवरी रेट मिल गया। वो मिला आपको 18.712 पर मशीन आवर। समझो बी के लिए आपको दिए हैं 10,000 लेबर आवर्स बेस। तो जब आप इसको डिवाइड करोगे आपको क्या मिला, बी का चार्जिंग रेट 1.8832 पर लेबर आवर। करेक्ट।
जी सर जी।
तो ये आखिरी स्टेप है, यू आर राइट। अब इस सम में नहीं दिया है क्योंकि अपन स्टेप बाय स्टेप जा रहे हैं, इस सम में हम सिर्फ सेकेंडरी कर रहे हैं। पर जब पूरा सम आएगा तो पूरे सम में सिर्फ इसके आगे आखिरी स्टेप क्या है, आपको ये बेस भी दिया रहेगा। यू हैव टू डिवाइड द टोटल ओवरहेड्स जो भी आपके आए बाय द रिस्पेक्टिव बेस, तो आपको आपका चार्जिंग रेट मिल जाएगा। राइट।
जी सर। जी सर, थैंक
चलो आगे बढ़े। एवरीबडी अंडरस्टूड, क्लियर। अब वी आर स्टिल इन द रेसिप्रोकल मेथड। फॉर रेसिप्रोकल नाउ यू आर हैविंग वन मोर ऑप्शन। इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग रिपीटेड, जो कि बहुत लेंदी है, बहुत टाइम कंज्यूमिंग है, थोड़ा सा बोरिंग है, बट इट इज स्कोरिंग ऑल्सो क्योंकि इजी है। देर इज अनदर अल्टरनेटिव मेथड गिवन विच इज कॉल्ड एज simultaneous equation, another method. So same, we are in the same category of reciprocal. अब इसी सम को आप वापस सॉल्व करोगे, रेसिप्रोकल ही है आपका केस, मींस x is giving to y, y is giving to x. As per primary distribution, 13,600. Now हमें वापस x और y को एक दूसरे को चार्ज करना है, बट जो हम यहाँ पे इतनी बार रिपीट कर रहे थे एक्स वाई एक्स, वो भी यहाँ पे हम रोक सके क्योंकि अब इसके आगे जो डिवीजन हो रहा था वो सिंगल डिजिट था। अगर ऊपर का फिगर बड़ा होगा तो मे बी ये स्टेप और चलेगा एक्स वाई जब तक आप सिंगल डिजिट पे नहीं आते। करेक्ट। अब इंस्टेड ऑफ डूइंग सो मच ऑफ हमाली, वी कैन डू अ कमाली। कमाली मीन्स मैजिक। हाउ? मैं डिपार्टमेंट एक्स का और एक बार डिवाइड करके ही आई विल गेट द आंसर। और ये आंसर क्या आएगा मालूम है? यही आएगा, 18,712 आएगा, 18,832 आएगा, 15,556 आएगा, नील। तो सेम आपको जो बार बार रिपीटेड करके आ रहा था वो एक बार करके आएगा, इसीलिए दिस मेथड इज कमाली। अब इसके लिए आपको कुछ वर्किंग करना। व्हाट इज दिस वर्किंग? प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड, own expense plus share from other department. What is this? If I'm asking you how much X is giving to other departments, how much X is giving? It is giving its own expense, which is 9,000 plus whatever it is getting from the other department. So how much X is charging to ABC? अगर मैं ये सवाल पूछूं, what is the total expense which X is charging? आंसर इज उसका खुद का जो खर्चा था वो प्लस उसको जो दूसरे डिपार्टमेंट से शेयर मिलेगा, यानी वट एवर एक्स विल गेट फ्रॉम वाई। सिमिलरली इफ आई आस्क यू हाउ मच इज द टोटल एक्सपेंस ऑफ वाई, जो वो चार्ज करेगा एबीसी को, सो एक आएगा उसका खुद का खर्चा 3,000 प्लस उसको जो बार बार एक्स से मिलता रहेगा आउट ऑफ एक्स का खर्चा। इट मीन्स आई गेट अ वेरी सिंपल इक्वेशन कि व्हाट इज द टोटल एक्सपेंस ऑफ ईच डिपार्टमेंट। इट इज खुद का खर्चा plus share from other department. So let me convert it into an equation. So पहला है डिपार्टमेंट X का इक्वेशन। X का टोटल खर्चा कितना है? लेट मी कॉल इट एज X। वो कैसे आएगा? खुद का खर्चा विच इज 9,000 प्लस X को Y से कितना मिल रहा है? Y X को दे रहा है 20%। सो X को मिलेगा 20% ऑफ Y। वापस Y कितना है टोटल? खुद का खर्चा, Y का खुद का खर्चा है 3,000 प्लस हाउ मच X इज गिविंग टू Y? X इज गिविंग 10% टू Y। सो X से Y को कितना मिल रहा है? 10%। सबसे पहले आई होप यू ऑल हैव अंडरस्टूड दिस इक्वेशन। So the simple equation that you have to prepare is equation of total expense, which is खुद का खर्चा plus share from the other department. So X का खुद का खर्चा 9,000 प्लस उसको 20% ऑफ Y मिल रहा है। Y का खुद का खर्चा 3,000 प्लस उसको 10% ऑफ X मिल रहा है। Right? Now once you have understood this, this becomes the simultaneous equation, which is the name of this method. Now, how do you solve? Maybe in school you would have found simultaneous more complicated. Here it is very easy. How? I will write down X wala equation, which is 9,000 plus 20%. अब 20% किसका है? Of Y. And what is Y? It is this. So I'll put instead of Y the value of Y. What is the value of Y? 3,000 plus 10% of X. अब 10% of X लिखने की जगह पे 10% is 0.1. So what I have done? I have taken the equation of X. X का equation लिखा, which is X is equal to 9,000 plus 20% of Y. And in place of Y, I have written Y's equation, which is 3,000 plus 10% means 0.1X. Over. Why I'm saying over, you have to now simply solve this. So what I get? X is equal to 9,000 plus 20% of 3,000 is 600 plus 20% of 0.1 is 0.02x. Please do the calculations correctly and minutely. If you make any one single error in making these calculations, everything will go wrong. Now I'll add both this and this will come on the left hand side. So x means 1. We all know this much of maths. सिर्फ x बोला मतलब it is 1. And ये यहाँ पे आके minus होगा. So 1 minus 0.02. आप कैलसी पे check करो, it comes to 0.98. Correct? And now you get x, which is 9,600 divided by 0.98. How much it comes? 9,600 divided by 0.98. So I'm getting X as 9796. Correct? Sum is over. Sum is over. आपने जो मेहनत से उतना रिपीटेड किया पिछली बार, वो अब यहाँ पे आपको आंसर एक स्टेप में आ जाएगा. And the step is also easy. Simultaneous भले स्कूल में आपको difficult लगा होगा. Here the simultaneous is not at all difficult. So I've made the same format. In the same format, I've written this primary distribution वाला amount. Now x और y मुझे जो डिवाइड करना है वो कितना करना है? I will divide x this amount. So how much amount of x I'm dividing? The amount which I just calculated, 9796. Basis is given. What is the basis of x? x का रेशियो क्या था? 40, 30, 20, 10. So x का रेशियो is 40, 30, 20, 10. Let us calculate. So it is 9796. So here for y I am getting 980. Let us see. Rounded. Important. X कितना divide किया मैंने? 9796. Please pay this attention to. अब तक क्या हो रहा था? डिवाइड करने के बाद वो डिपार्टमेंट नील हो रहा था. इधर अब इस स्टेप के बाद y has become 3980 and x is becoming 796 negative. I hope you understood this. So y became 3980 and x became 796 negative. One nine five nine 3918 29 3. How much should I take? 9 should I take? Yes. Please clause verify, students. So whatever I got from the simultaneous equation, value of x as 9796, I took that value. I started dividing that value by taking the ratio of x, which is 4, 3, 2, 1. I got these values. But since I've distributed more figure of x than what x was having, I'll get negative value in x, which is now minus 796. And what is given to y is 980. So now the total of y is 3980. Now I'll divide this 3980. What is the ratio? 30, 30, 20, 20. So the ratio of y is 30, 30, 20, 20. Now see the magic. How much I have to divide? I have to divide 3980, okay, divided by 10. How much I'm getting for x? 796. How much I've divided off y? So exactly what was coming as negative, the same amount was given to x. So x has become nil. 3980 divided nil. Now, what I'm getting for other departments, again, it is 796, correct? And what I'm getting for other departments, 1194. Please check. This is matching. This is matching. This is matching. Yes, and a magic. So the same reciprocal, we are doing the reciprocal category where x gives to y gives to x. We have this first Hamali method. Hamali, why? To do the same process again and again, you do it repeated. So I call the repeated method as the Hamali method, right? But interestingly, the same thing can be done in one step by the simultaneous equation, which is a maths concept. Since it is giving me answer in one step, I call it as the Kamali method, the magic method. And see, it is not at all difficult. Even the simultaneous equation, maybe in school, I don't know how much you liked it or did not like it. I liked maths a lot, though I was not able to understand some topics like calculus, and all those derivative integration, but makes no difference. We never use those things now. That is only scientific application topics. For us, whatever basic maths was there, like all these simultaneous equation, quadratic equation, ratios, integers, only that much knowledge is sufficient. See the magic. Right, students? So please take a screenshot of this. These are the different methods of secondary distribution. I have purposefully taken one sum, solved it by all the alternate methods so that you have a comparative understanding of all. So this is the simultaneous equation method in the reciprocal category. Then this is again in the reciprocal category but repeated distribution method. Please take a screenshot if you're not having a screenshot of this. Done. Then you have these direct method and the step ladder method also, which is under the first two category, that is non-reciprocal methods. Understood, students? बेटा ट्रायल एंड एरर मैंने आपको बता दिया था परवेज. ट्रायल एंड एरर इज रिपीटेड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन. आपने शायद ध्यान नहीं दिया, मैंने यहाँ पे लिख के दिया है आपको. ये देखिए, रिपीटेड एंड ट्रायल एंड एरर आर सेम, नाम अलग अलग है. करेक्ट बेटा? So total 5 methods, out of which these two are same, 2 different names. So 4 methods: direct, step ladder, trial error repeated, or simultaneous. So students, today we did the practical part, primary and then secondary. Please practice this so that in the next lecture we do the remaining part of this topic and the topic will get closed. Is this fine with all? Anybody? Any confusion? Any problem? Please let me know. Any questions? Please feel free to ask me. Right? No questions? Great. So that's it from my side. Please practice from your books, from your materials, whatever you have, so that in next lecture we will first again take up all your doubts, because you can say we have completed 75% of audits. What I have not done, I have not taught you calculating ORR, but actually it is now very simple, dividing it by base. And the 2 types of practicals which we'll be dealing with in our next class is machine hour rate problems and under or absorption treatment sums. These 2 things is left that will be done in the next class. I repeat, machine hour rate I have not yet taught. Next, under or absorption sums I have not yet taught. These 2 things we'll do in the next class. And yes, keep studying, keep asking questions. It will make the concepts thoroughly strong and you will stand out as a different professional in the subject. And tomorrow, whenever you get your qualification, you will get a very good opportunity in industry in this particular segment of costing, and it is a very rewarding professional opportunity. Abhisha beta, the questions may range between 6 to 10 marks depending upon what is the extent of details they are asking. Sometimes if it is a very basic sum, they may even ask you only for 4 marks, but generally 6 to 10 marks you can expect. Yes, Rohan.
Sir, why variable manufacturing overhead is absorbed on the basis of actual production and fixed manufacturing overhead is absorbed on the basis of normal production?
I'll tell you. See, fixed is something which you all also know. Fixed costs are those costs which will not change with the output. Output may increase or decrease, fixed will remain same. Whereas variable costs are those costs which change in proportion to output. So if output 10,000 becomes 15,000, those variable costs will also increase by 150%. So variable cost was 1 lakh will become 1,50,000. It will change exactly in ratio of your output. That is why for variable overheads, you should take actual output. Now, for fixed overheads, why you should take normal output? Because as I said, firstly, fixed overheads has no relation with your actual output. Output may be less or more, fixed expense will remain the same. Secondly, what is normal output? So actual output is what is actual you are doing. Normal is what is the average output of past 10, 15, 20 years. Like if I ask you, Rohan, how much you sleep daily? You will say, sir, on an average, I sleep 6 hours. So 6 hours becomes your normal sleeping hours, which you will tell me on the basis of past average. Now, when you have taken a past average, if you're telling me, sir, I normally 6 घंटा सोता हूँ, in that particular case, 6 remains constant because it is an average. I hope you're understanding this. Like if you watch cricket, if you see the average of Virat Kohli, if you see the average of any other cricketer, after they have played some number of matches, despite कि इस मैच में सेंचुरी मारी या इस मैच में 0 स्कोर किया या 20 स्कोर किया या 200 स्कोर किया, उनका एवरेज वही रहता है. So once you find out an average of past 8, 10, 20 years, that average, which is called as the normal production, will remain constant more or less. It will not get affected by the actual. And since fixed costs are also constant, that is why we take a constant basis for dividing fixed costs, which is normal production. I hope, Rohan, I could explain and others also understood this point. Gurmeet, beta, last time also I said, I don't have ready-made answers for all the questions because I also every time find out these questions from past exams here and there. So I have not made any standard answer list. I'll see if I can find out something. Otherwise, last time also I had requested the students to solve it and one of you may send it to me so that I can check it and then that can be shared with everyone. Or in the meantime, if I can get final printed answers or written answers, maybe I'll upload it on the portal. But I'll prefer if you all, anybody of you solve and give it to me, I'll check that and that will be shared with everyone after making corrections if any required. Fine. So thank you very much, students. Keep studying and keep escalating and evolving in the subject. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Sir, we can close the session. Thank you. Thank you.